to be on my mind is hustling. I just wanna touch a onion. She just want a couple hundred. I got mad and changed the subject. Then I got drunk and said fuck it. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling bitches. Pull up with that Aquafina. Yellow bone, her name is Tina. Tina like the hit casinos. Tina could snort a whole kilo. Tina like to fight and argue. Bye bye Tina, bitch, who are you? Met a dark skin chick named Anna. Anna like that marijuana. Anna was from the Bahamas. At least that's what she said. I assume she's honest. I apologize, Your Honor. I just wanted me some money. You can't tell these niggas frontin'. You can't tell these niggas nothing. 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 All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling bitches. This is for my hustling bitches. Nigga, don't act so suspicious. Hustle hot as hell, but you swear they snitching. You don't wanna go to prison. You don't wanna go to prison. You don't wanna come up missing. You don't wanna come up missing. I just want a couple bitches. Put them in the ring, make a split decision. I'm trying to slow down with the sinning. I pray to God, no, he'll forgive me. Me and God had a discussion. He said, tell him, I said, you can't.
What's good, everybody? What's good? We're back for another one. Alright, y'all know the routine. Gotta give it a little second for the stream to catch up, then we can get going. Season's greetings. Strap season is heard. Strap season greetings to everybody. Alright, y'all, we rolling. It's her, y'all. It's family time. Strap season. No more talk. It's time to get it on. Alright, y'all. So, Yordenis Ugas versus Errol Spence Jr. Strap season has begun. So, we know this fight is coming. It's coming in April. It's finally here. The unification fight. Everybody's been wanting. Everybody's been waiting for. Personally, as a Pacquiao fan, I wanted it to be Pacquiao who was going to be in the unification fight, but he went down to Ugas back in August. Hard fought, but he did lose. So Ugas is the man at the moment, and a lot of people are picking Ugas to win this fight. A lot of my subscriber base wants Ugas to win. Tim Bradley's picking Ugas to win. There's a lot of people on my Instagram picking Ugas to win. So I feel like it's going to be a good fight. But I've said in the past, personally, I don't think for business reasons, Ugas is going to win that fight. But it's not saying it can't be a competitive, good fight. Not saying that Ugas doesn't have a puncher's chance, because in any fight, you always have a puncher's chance. My question is, do we get the ultimate goal at a strap season? Errol Spence, what was he coined the phrase strap season, and he coined that for a reason. He wanted to be unified welterweight champion of the world. And he's been going about this for years and years. He's been a champion for a few years now. He started off with Kell Brook, then he beat Sean Porter. Before that, he was trying to get Keith Thurman in the ring. Could never get Thurman in the ring. And he's been trying to get Terrence Crawford in the ring. It's been difficult, to say the least, to make that fight. But now we have Ugas, and Ugas is a formidable opponent. He's beaten Terrence Crawford in the past. From what I heard from Captain Full G, maybe twice. But I know officially one time in the amateurs he did beat Terrence Crawford in when they were both on the Olympic teams. He was representing Cuba. Crawford was representing Team USA. So Ugas does have some big victories on his record. And one thing I will say for Ugas is this. I think he deserves a bigger fan base. I think what he accomplished by beating Manny Pacquiao was greater than anything Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford has accomplished as a welterweight to this point, because he beat the king, the crown king of the last generation, the last surviving king of the welterweight division of the last generation, Manny Pacquiao, put him into retirement. And I think he deserves more accolades than what he's receiving, and Ugas could ultimately become the greatest underdog story ever told in history, in boxing history, next to George Kambosos, because I think George Kambosos right now is the number one. But if Ugas pulls this off, it'll be George Kambosos and Yordenis Ugas going down in history as the greatest underdog stories ever, because he would have pulled off something. No, I don't think too many. He would have already beaten Manny Pacquiao, which nobody thought he could do. And if he can pull off this Spence fight, it would be the greatest accomplishment, I think, of an underdog fighter ever in the history of sports. And I call him an underdog because Ugas is one of those type of fighters who he's been around for a while. His name isn't as big as a Spence or a Crawford, but he's just as good of a fighter, and he's taken losses in his career. And he's setting an example for those guys out there who think that the O is everything. Your career is not over if you lose. Your career is not done if you take a loss. It all depends on how much you want to achieve in the sport. And if you have the tenacity and you got the drive to keep going in the sport, you're going to achieve something great. And that's exactly what Ugas did. He beat Pacquiao and he achieved greatness by doing that. And I've been really hard on Keith Thurman, but I've been thinking for the past day or so. Ugas is setting a great example for a fighter like Thurman. Thurman only has one loss on his record. Thurman, a lot of people's writing him off because of the loss he has to Pacquiao and his long layoff. But Thurman could ultimately have rebuilt himself into a better fighter in those 3 years. We just have to see what he brings to the ring when he fights Barrios. And, I commend him for coming back, and not just giving up on that Pacquiao fight and going into retirement. So, Ugas is the ultimate underdog story. If he can do it, anybody can do it, man. And I think this is the road to hopefully a complete unification of all the titles. Now, we got a big roadblock in the way of that now because of what's going on with Terrence Crawford and Bob Arum. And it's going to get interesting whether Crawford is tied up into this court case to where he can't fight for a little while, or if this is just ultimately a ploy on his accord to have more eyeballs put on him, because he wasn't getting a lot of attention at the moment. Spence is getting a lot of attention. He needed the eyeballs to be focused back on him and what he has going on. So he pulled this out of the hat. It could just be some type of stall tactic, and at the same time, free advertisement for himself. Captain 4G has a video up right now explaining that, so go check out Captain's video about the advertisement part of that. It definitely could be that it's just free advertisement for him. He's not really ultimately looking to win the court case, but as much attention as he can get focused on him right now, he's winning, man. You can't hate him. He's getting attention, and he's a free agent at this point, so he he has the ability to do a lot right now as a free agent if he wants to. Now, if he wants to go and re-sign with another promotional company, ultimately that's his decision. I hope he don't do that though, because I think if he re-signs with another company, especially if it's not PBC, it's going to throw another monkey wrench in the negotiation process. And I'm hearing a lot, I'm seeing a lot from Errol Spence, on the sidelines. He's not really putting out a lot of videos voicing his opinion, but I'm seeing a lot of Instagram posts from Team Spence, talking about they may in fact go after Terrence Crawford next. Now I don't think it's gonna happen next because of the IBF mandatory situation. I think they will ultimately get involved, but like the Sandonis situation, they might step aside if they can pull off a Spence Crawford fight. And I think they would just want to be first in line after that Spence and Crawford fight. So this might be the beginning of the real strap season. It started with Kell Brook. It's taken this long to get to this point. This would be uh, 3 titles in. It's actually 4, but there's a title nobody cares about. That Ring Magazine title. They care about it, but nobody cares about that title. Uh, so this would be the 3rd one, and Terrence Crawford ultimately has the 4th title. So once this fight is over with, and I think this is what Crawford is waiting for before he announces his next move, because he can't set up a next fight until Spence Ugas is over. Because if he's fighting the winner of that fight, he can't set up his next fight until those 2 guys actually get it on. Who's going to ultimately win that fight? I mean, I'm probably not going to be on her too long today. But I appreciate everybody for coming through. If you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button for me. Drop me a comment. Let me know who I'm talking to. Listen, I think it's a situation of what's best for the company. Like I said, it's not that Ugas is not talented or Ugas can't win. I think they're going to make it so financially lucrative for Ugas. It's not really going to matter to him whether he wins or loses. And at the end of the day, why go in there and take a whole lot of punishment if you're still getting a big check out of it, a huge check out of it? And I think that's ultimately going to be the end, because that goal is to get that Terrence Crawford fight. That fight makes PBC a lot of money, especially if they can make it an in-house fight. If they can somehow sign Terrence Crawford to either PBC or, from what I'm hearing, Mayweather Promotions. Maybe he don't want to be an official fighter with the PBC, because if he just does a partnership with Mayweather, then he can make a lot more decisions about who he fights, where he fights, when he fights, and his purses. So maybe he doesn't sign with PBC. Maybe he just does a partnership, some type of partnership with Mayweather, because that would be really lucrative for him. And especially depending on the split of the partnership, maybe he gets a 80-20, 90-10 partnership with Mayweather, to where he's taking the lion's share of the money. It could be ultimately very lucrative for him, and it would give Terrence Crawford a lot more power at the negotiating table, because Mayweather has a stock in PBC, so he can make some decisions on their behalf regarding that fight and the 60-40, 65-35. Once again, Captain 4G put out a video and he spoke about 55-45. I actually think if he was to sign with Mayweather Promotions, he could pull that 55-45 off. Even though I think it's not fair, but I think maybe he can work something out behind the scenes to where that other 5% is not coming out of Earl Spence's portion of the money. Maybe he can work it out to where, they just ultimately write that 5% off or something. But it's going to be interesting to see if that's the move he decides to make. Because I keep bringing up Golden Boy. I think, and I bring up Golden Boy for a reason. I feel like Terrence Crawford needs to get around some other fighters. He needs to get around some other retired fighters so they can give him some pointers. He had good talent over there at Top Rank to be around, but I think getting around a guy like Oscar or a guy like Mayweather, who can guide him throughout his for the rest of his career, because at this point he hasn't really had a lot of guidance in his career. He's had a good career. He's still undefeated. He had a good promotional company backing him, but they wasn't guiding him in the right direction. When he had certain fights in front of him, I think if he had a fighter like Mayweather or Oscar behind him, they would have gotten him in position to take those fights at the right time and for the right price. And I think they would have made those fights happen. To where Bob Arum was looking at the dollar signs. He's always looking at the dollar signs. What makes me the most money, and when he's not making money, he's not a happy guy. He's not making fights. So I think a guy like Oscar, a guy like Mayweather, that they're going to put you in position to make the fights at the right time and make them with the big names where they're winnable for you. So I think ultimately that might be what's in Terrence Crawford's best interest. I don't think it's in his best interest to go sign a contract, 3, 4, 5 fight deal contract with PBC, or now that there's so much turmoil between him and Top Rank, to turn around and go back to Top Rank. Even though there's a chance of that, there's a chance of him still working with Top Rank, because there's still a Josh Taylor fight that could be made. Josh Taylor fights next month, I believe. So he's going to be looking for a 147 opponent if he wins, and if he wins convincingly. So, there's still a chance that he might cross over, go work with Bob Arum, and put off this whole strap season situation until 2023. But I think if it's Spence's ultimate goal now to just get strap season over with, which I think he's probably getting there to that point to where he's like, man, I'm tired of stalling, and it's easier to make the fight without Bob Arum involved, because he has no power to turn the fight down because of a split. Now I know Bob Arum has gotten involved in several of Crawford's fights for several different reasons, to where we don't have to bring that up. But as long as Bob Arum's not involved, I think the fight can be made easier. And ultimately, I think the fight has a real good chance of being made at this point. If Terrence Crawford stays independent or goes signs with Mayweather partnership, some type of partnership. Not actually signing as a promoter, but as a partner, because all the ties Mayweather has, doing all these weird little exhibitions. Oh, he's dealing with a lot of really rich people overseas. And I've always commended Mayweather for his boxing business sense. He's a great boxing businessman. I don't like him as a fighter, but he's a great boxing businessman. And he's put himself in position and around a lot of very wealthy people overseas. Not only that, it introduces him to a whole new audience every time he does one of these exhibitions. Now he's about to go to Saudi Arabia and get a big bag of money for fighting somebody who's never fought a professional fight in their life, who's basically a teenager, and is introducing them to a huge new audience. So, what Mayweather can bring to the table for Terrence Crawford is teaching him how to market himself correctly and make money at the same time, and this is a problem even I have. I might be a lot of people tell me I'm a great analyst of boxing and all this. You got a good channel, but what I haven't figured out is how do I make money off of YouTube, because YouTube doesn't pay anything. They pay you pennies for doing this, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't have the support to where my subscribers are financing me. So my thing is, how do I monetize this on the back end until I do got that type of support? And I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm pretty sure if I had Mayweather's marketing team, I'd be making millions of dollars right now. So, I think that's kind of the precarious situation that Terrence Crawford's in. Yes, he's a good fighter. Yes, a lot of people know him, but he's not making his turnover ratio. As far as money goes, isn't as high and popularity as it's supposed to be at this point. Where when you look at a guy, his rival Errol Spence, even me, I think it's astronomical the amount of attention Spence gets uh, for for being a boxer. But some of it's because the way he achieved his status. I think so. If you break it down, Errol Spence did have to go overseas and beat Kell Brook. So he was introduced to a whole new audience a long time ago. Terrence Crawford really hasn't been introduced to yet. I'm pretty sure a lot of those people know him, but they haven't saw him fight live. He hasn't come over there and interacted with them. And that plays a big role, being in these places and interacting with these fans. To get them basically on your side. And I think that's where Errol Spence has achieved, where Crawford hasn't achieved. Crawford hasn't marketed himself correctly, and I think he ultimately left it up to Bob Arum, and he should have learned that lesson from Pacquiao. The difference between him and Pacquiao, because I think Pacquiao could have left it up to Bob Arum because it was a different time in boxing. And Pacquiao was a special fighter, and people were actually buying and supporting boxing financially back then a lot more than they are now. It's crazy because I was looking through Google. I was looking for boxing on Google before I got on here. And it's crazy because if you look up just boxing news on Google, just type in boxing and then hit the news tab on Google, Jake Paul is 90% of the headlines. And I think that's crazy because that means now he's the most famous boxer in the sport. And he's not even a sanctioned boxer at this point. But his fan base supports him. His fan base is putting him in that status of him sucking up all the boxing news, which is crazy to me. But it goes to show you that marketing actually is more important than your boxing skill. You could be a horrible boxer, but your marketing could be through the roof. Or you could be an unknown boxer, but your marketing could be through the roof, and everybody knows who you are, like a Ryan Garcia, who really hasn't proven a lot in in the ring, but is one of the most famous boxers in the world. And then you got guys like Canelo who just basically prove it because they fight everybody. You can think what you want to about Canelo, but he's fought everybody. He's did the Pacquiao thing, going through weight classes. He might not beat that 8th division. We got 8 viewers right there. And Pacquiao, I don't think anybody's going to beat that 8th division, man. So I think ultimately the one thing that Terrence Crawford is missing is marketing. And the one person who can fix that for him is the king of boxing marketing. And, the guy who actually taught Mayweather how to get a big bag of money. The guy who actually taught Jake Paul how to get a big bag of money, which is Mayweather. And I think it would be in Terrence Crawford's best interest to go sign with Mayweather. I think that would be the best. He has endless amounts of money to play with. He knows all the best backers overseas, so he can make you fights overseas, get you in front of big crowds, get you big dollar amounts for those fights, because Mayweather's been getting big dollar amounts, and they're not even been real fights. So you can imagine the amount of money he can probably get Terrence Crawford to put on a fight over in Qatar or in Dubai or somewhere, with these people that Mayweather's dealing with on the backside. So I think it ultimately benefits Terrence Crawford to go and deal with Floyd Mayweather over PBC. And the fact that it is strap season, he has to put himself in the best position to win, and I think that's the best position to win for him. Now, to me, I think it's a conflict of interest. Uh, if Mayweather, if he did sign to Mayweather, being that he is involved with PBC, but I'm not sure how that would work. Maybe they would make Mayweather not be able to be involved in any other PBC negotiation. He would only be able to be involved as a Mayweather Promotions marketer. I don't know how that would work, but I think it would ultimately be in Terrence Crawford's best interest to make that move. Now, I give Ben Israel his full credit for breaking that. So if it does become true, he was the first person to let me know that was going on the back end. That there might actually be talks between Mayweather and Crawford going on. So give Ben Israel. I know he's not the one who broke it. Somebody else on YouTube broke it, but Ben Israel broke it to me and my audience. So give him all the credit for that. How does it play out? So let's say, okay, I feel like Ugas Spence happens and Spence ultimately wins that fight. How does the negotiation process between Spence, PBC, and let's say Terrence Crawford actually does sign to Mayweather Promotions? How does that work out? How does that actually bring the fight together? I think what you ultimately might see is, like Captain Full G said, he might be able to work it out to where he gets that 55-45 split. And I think if he can get an extra 5% out of PBC, then the fight can be made. And I think the fight the fight can be made easily and quickly after the Ugas fight, maybe for the summertime. And I think, listen, if we hear any rumblings about Crawford signing with Mayweather, strap season is a full go. I won't deny that fight is going to happen. It's going to happen this year or early 2023. Now, I'm still saying it's not going to happen till 2023 unless he signs with Mayweather. Now, if he signs with Mayweather, I think things will get moving a whole lot quicker. It still might be a lengthy negotiation process to get to that 55-45 goal. I think Terrence Crawford might be going for. It might be that they have to negotiate their way back to 60-40, because they offered that and Terrence Crawford turned it down. And PBC came out and said, well, there's not enough money in the fight to make it the way he wants it at 50-50. So, I think 55-45 would be a good, medium of what both guys want, or maybe even 53-40, as close as they can get it to that, whether they got to throw them extra 1 or 2 or 3%. I think Mayweather could ultimately be the push to get him over that hump if he was to sign with Mayweather. Now we got to see how this all plays out, because I haven't seen anything official. I did find the video that we're talking about, but I haven't seen anything as far as news-wise that's been speaking about Terrence Crawford negotiating with Mayweather in any type of partnership. So I don't know how true it is. Maybe it's just something behind the scenes that's going on. But we do know that Mayweather has that type of money. Mayweather has that type of pull. Mayweather has the backers. Mayweather has it all. And Mayweather could ultimately make it happen. Now, it's crazy. I don't understand why. I guess I get it, why he deals with PBC so much, because he doesn't have to use his own money dealing with PBC. So he has back other financiers that finance PBC. That just doesn't have to be his money. So I understand why he doesn't do everything just under Mayweather Promotions. He mainly does his own fights under Mayweather Promotions for some reason. And I'm not sure who all is actually signed to Mayweather Promotions. Whether it's just him as a fighter. I believe Adrian Broner was on Mayweather Promotions at one point, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not sure if somebody is in here who knows the answer to that question. If you could jump in the chat real fast and let me know. Who's actually signed the Mayweather? What are the actual fighters under Mayweather promotion? Is it just Floyd Mayweather? Is he the only actual fighter on MP Promotions? You know what's crazy? I guess his is MW Promotions. I was about to say him and Manny Pacquiao got the same. They got the same acronym for their promotional companies: Mayweather Promotions, MP Promotions. Manny Pacquiao. I guess his is MPP Promotions. So I guess it's a little different. MPP Promotions. Manny Pacquiao Promotions. But that's funny. But if anybody knows the answer to that, I guess I can look that up real fast. But I think I'm gonna get out for in a few minutes. Probably not gonna be on her that long tonight. Who signed to Mayweather Promotions? To Mayweather. Current boxers on. Oh, okay. He got a few boxers. Mayweather Promotions. Here we go. His fighters. Hey, where'd they go? Current boxers. Angelo Leo. He's a featherweight. Year signed 2017. Carlos Zambrano. Featherweight 2017. Sharif Boger. Lightweight 2016. Jose Vargas. 2016. Okay. So Gervonta Davis is actually signed. Are these his fighters or are these Al Heyman's fighters? I guess these are his fighters. It says Mayweather Promotions. It says Mayweather Promotions boxing promoter, former founder in the firm founded in 2017, 5 division world and television 12-time world champion Floyd Mayweather after Tyrank Al Heyman. The free agent has been an advisor of Mayweather since. Mayweather Promotions also promotes forms of live entertainment, including sporting events, live music, theatrical events, and film and television productions. Mayweather Promotion mainly co-promotes with Golden Boy Promotions, and Leonard Ellerby is the CEO. Interesting. So he has Gervonta Davis, Chris Parsons, uh, Lathandra Jones, I guess it's a female. Sanjerk, I can't pronounce him. It's a Russian guy. Alexis Santiago. Juan Herdez. What am I? Juan Herdez, Ladreas Miller, Kevin Newman, Ronald Javille. I guess he's like Lithuanian or something. Andrew Tibet, Ashley Theopen, Mickey Bay, Linnell Bellis, Badu. He got Badu Jack. I didn't know that. He had Badu Jack, Isaiah Smith, and Leon Love. So those are all the fighters that have actually been signed to Mayweather Promotion. I don't know how many of those are actually active today, but that's interesting. He had a pretty good stable of fighters. And I guess his best fighter that he has signed is Gervonta Davis. But Badu Jack is tough. You know, he's pretty tough. I know who Badu Jack is. I've heard Isaiah Smith before. I never seen him fight. Uh, Juan Hernandez, I think I've heard of him before. We all know who Gervonta Davis is, but a lot of these people I've never even heard of them before. Chris Humphreys, Royal Ramo, and Tank Davis are the only two I know of that are actually active. Might be a old list. Leandro Jones left. Okay, yeah, it says that that's Wikipedia's And Wikipedia is always behind. But I guess that's all the fighters that he's had, signed at some point. I had to turn the brightness down. That he's had signed at some point, I guess. Those are all the fighters that I guess at some point that he's had signed. I don't know if y'all can actually even see it because of the thing on my. I got the light shining behind the camera, so y'all might not be able to see it. But he had a pretty good stable of fighters. Badu left too. Yeah, I thought Badu was. I thought he was doing like. I thought he was like Triller or something. The last time I seen him fight, maybe about 2 or 3 months ago or something. But I don't even think it was like a big time fight. I don't even know if he's still a big time fighter anymore. But I like Badu Jack, man. He got that big split across his man. It looks crazy when you it looks crazy. And it's crazy that happened in a fight. That's even more insane. But definitely, man, strap season. I hope for Terrence Crawford's sake that he can pull this off, man. I appreciate all the likes, man. If anybody hasn't hit the like button, definitely hit that like button. Drop me a comment too, man. We got a couple of people in here. I definitely hope he can pull this off, man. And we don't have to draw this out any longer because the longer we wait, the more. The camera done got all out of whack. Hold on, man. Matter of fact, I never did fix it. We run into production ourselves first, so I forgot to fix the exposure on the camera. But the longer we wait, the more this situation ends up like the Mayweather Pacquiao situation, where we get to fight when guys are not in their prime, and one guy has a huge advantage over the other guy because of the I mean, right now it's kind of that same scenario to where Errol Spence has all the negotiating power, similar to what Floyd Mayweather had in the Maypac fight. And I keep telling y'all that, that's one of the reasons for this is Mayweather is one of his advisors. So it's not surprising that, these are his negotiators. This is the way he negotiates. It's very, listen, no, I like both guys' personalities. The only thing I don't like about both guys is their cockiness and the cocky way that they treat each other. Because I think if you took ego out of it and they just accepted that they're the best two fighters, they would have fought in a long time. They would have fought a long time ago. Similar to what we get from George Kambosa, similar to what you get from guys like Boots Ennis. These guys just want to fight. They haven't made the amounts of money that Spence and Crawford have made, so their egos aren't inflated by money. It's all about the love of the sport and the fight game for these guys right now. And I know it could definitely bloom out of control for blossom out of control for George Kambosa if he lets it. But I think he's been so humble as a fighter up until this point, and he's been such a under the radar fighter that money would never change his personality. But money changes everybody. But he seems like a real likable guy, real down to earth guy, real serious, about his craft. And I don't think he's one of those type of people that would change because of money. To where I think, a lot of people are turned off to Errol Spence because of his cockiness. A lot of people are turned off to Terrence Crawford because of his cockiness. And I think if they would take ego out of their personalities, they would have a way bigger fan base. I think that's what sold Pacquiao to a lot of people, is that, Pacquiao was a man of the people. You could get out there and train with Pacquiao. He was very approachable. He's fan friendly. He didn't have an ego. He took his losses and took his defeats like a man. And I think people enjoyed that about Pacquiao. Where these two guys, their egos are based off their O. Their personality and their confidence is based off their O. They haven't really, really, truly been tested, either one of them. Now, I do give Errol Spence the benefit of the doubt because I think when he fought Kell Brook was at his best. Now I will say that the Triple G beating might have played a role in the Kell Brook victory, but he did fight Kell Brook in Kell Brook's country. And, he did technically fight Kell Brook when he was at his best, even though I do think that Triple G fight played a role. So I will give Spence a little more leeway when it comes to saying that his resume is a little more tested than Terrence Crawford is. And Terrence Crawford has that he's always going to have that asterisk until he fights some serious competition. And that's why I wish he would have took that Pacquiao fight before Spence signed it. He got offered it once. Bob Arum turned it down at that point, and then he got offered it before the Pacquiao Spence fight was announced, and his team turned it down. So, I wish he would have took that fight because that would have gave him a lot of credibility I think he needs at this point. And I think his resume is going to be in question until he either fights Spence and beats him, or he fights one of these younger lions and beats them convincingly. Because I think if he was to beat one of these young lions in their prime, then there's no more doubt. There's nothing else. So let's say that we don't get the Spence Crawford fight. Let's say he doesn't sign with Mayweather Promotion, or he doesn't sign with PBC. He decides to stay independent and says, "Hey, forget Spence and all the negotiating, and I'm not worried about strap season. I just want to fight the best guys out there. And if I can't get the champion, then I'll take the next best guys up, and I'm gonna beat those guys until I can get him." So let's say that scenario plays, and then we get a Crawford Taylor fight, or we get a Crawford Boots fight, or we get a Crawford Ortiz fight sometime later in 2022. Then if he was to beat one of those three guys, Taylor, Boots, or Ortiz, there's no more doubt to me. I would start to crown him, even though he doesn't have the titles to back him. I would say, okay, now your resume is backing you. Now you're beating the guys who are supposed to be the next up. So you're getting resume bumps where you kind of need a title bump to make it 50-50. But if you can bump your resume, you can still argue for 50-50 because your resume commands that you deserve a 50-50 split. The same way if he was to beat a Charlo in his next fight, then his resume demands that he gets a 50-50. If he was to beat Josh Taylor in his next fight, if he was to beat Boots Ennis in his next fight, if he was to beat Virgil Ortiz in his next fight, then that commands more of a purse. It might not get you to 50-50, but it might get you to that 55-45 split. I think a Josh Taylor or Boots Ennis, I think a Boots Ennis or a Virgil Ortiz, you know what? I think all three of those might get you to a 55-45 split. It might not get you to that full 50-50 because I think Errol Spence still deserves a slightly higher portion of the purse. But I feel like if Crawford can bump his resume just a little bit more, he can get there. Now I think that there's an easier road to get in there, and which is going through Mayweather. But if he ultimately decides that, hey, I don't want to take the Mayweather road, I would rather stay independent. I don't want to take the PBC road. I think independence is better. And I can do, just joint ventures. I can do partnerships with these fights. Then I think, it would benefit him a lot more. And then he goes and beats one of these younger guys. He gets that bump. He would have did it independently, and he would have beaten them on his own accord. He didn't need a promotional company. He just did it off his skill. So, I think that would, especially Josh Taylor. Now, Boots is a risk, and Boots doesn't have a big fan base. But I think people would give him a lot of praise for beating Boots if he was to get in the ring with Boots. Virgil Ortiz has a big fan base, but Virgil Ortiz is a huge risk. Virgil Ortiz may not be selling a lot of pay-per-views at this point, but Virgil Ortiz does have I've seen his Instagram. He has a lot of fans, so he does come in with a built-in fan base, I think he would get a huge bump from a Virgil Ortiz fight, as far as fans go, because it introduces him to a Hispanic audience. And Hispanic people do buy pay-per-views. I would give them credit for that. So where they say black fighters don't sell, or black fighters don't sell because black people don't buy pay-per-views. It just is what it is. I mean, a lot of black people, we black people been doing this culturally since the 80s. You know somebody who might buy the pay-per-view, you'll pay them a couple of dollars to watch it over their house. I mean, that's what black people been doing for years. Or now you have streaming services, so it's easier for you just to stream it or watch it with a friend than it is for you to just to buy it. Most people don't even have a cable now, so when they say black fighters don't sell, and it's because. And then you have the PBC aspect of that too, to where they took what should have been championship caliber pay-per-view fights and they gave them away. So they actually killed the pay-per-view model. Mayweather put it on life support and PBC took it to the grave. So if you're wondering why people's pay-per-views aren't selling it, and it's only the huge names that are actually selling. And the only real name that's really actually selling is Canelo Alvarez. Is because of his backing with the Hispanics. His backing is what sells his fights, is what makes his pay-per-view numbers so much higher than black fighters. Black people financially, we're not supporting boxing right now. Jake Paul is the most famous uh, boxer at this point because his fan base supports him. He has a very big fan base of very young people who followed him from YouTube in the boxing. And he's really not a boxer, but he's making the most money as a boxer at this point. He's selling the most pay-per-views as a boxer at this point. So it's to the point to where you either got to be super famous or you gotta come with a built-in fan base to push pay-per-view numbers. Otherwise, nobody's really selling pay-per-views at this point. The difference between a Spence pay-per-view and a Crawford pay-per-view might only be 75,000 buys. Crawford's pay-per-views might do 125. Spence might do 200 or 250. That's not a big difference. The problem is Spence's fan base, because he's from Texas, is way bigger than Terrence Crawford's fan base of what is it, Oklahoma or Kansas or the middle of nowhere, wherever he's from. Either wherever he's from a small Midwestern town, so city or state, so that's the big difference. I mean, to just be honest about it. I know a lot of channels like to push their narrative, like, because a lot of these black channels, let's just be honest here, they push a narrative like, black people are just one together bunch when we really not. And you can see how segregated it is even on YouTube. You got your what I would call them very racist boxing black channels, and then you got your black boxing channels that only support Errol Spence because he's black. If he was a white man, they wouldn't even be supporting him, which is crazy to think about it. And then you got even your overseas fan bases. They're very segregated. A lot of the overseas fans don't mess with the American channels because they only want to support the overseas channels and the overseas fighters. And the American channels don't really talk about the overseas fighters. And especially not the black channels that only support black fighters. And I think that's hurting a lot of those guys in a lot of ways because their fan bases would be way bigger if they would just ride a neutral wave. I try to ride a neutral wave. Though I am a Pacquiao fan, and I support everybody who's talented enough to be supported. Your talent is what makes me support you. It has nothing to do with your skin color. I could care less that Errol Spence is black. They don't make me say the things that I say about Errol Spence. I could care less that Terrence Crawford is black. It don't make me say the things that I say about Terrence Crawford. I could care less that George Kambosos is from Australia. He's a talented fighter. So his talent is what makes me say, you know what, I want to follow that guy. I want to cover that guy. I think he needs more coverage over here. You know, he deserves his shine, his flowers, his accolades. Same thing for Ugas. I think a lot of people are not supporting Ugas simply because he's from where he's from and he don't speak no English. But Ugas deserves a lot of support for what he did in the Pacquiao fight, even though I don't think he's gonna beat Spence. He did some miraculous things in that Pacquiao fight. So, you know, people need to stop basing things in sports off of skin color and start basing it off of your talent level. You know, it's ridiculous that you have, and these guys are, you know, they get a lot more support than I do. You know, maybe if I was a little more biased or racist, then I would get more support from black people. But that, you know, black people haven't been supporting me up until this point, and I'm black. I'm as black as you can get. But since I was a Pacquiao fan, you know, I was getting ousted by the black community. You know, I wasn't getting no support from the black community because they don't want to support Manny. They didn't want to support Manny Pacquiao, and they want to be against Pacquiao, and they want to be for Mayweather. So, you know, uh, but it is what it is. You got to take it with a grain of salt, and you can't really be mad about it, man. I support people that support me. I'm gonna support you back, and I support the talent of people, and not the skin color of people, man. So, at some point, you know, we all got to grow up, man, and just accept people for being human beings. At the end of the day, accept people for being more talented than you. Accept people for being, you know, their drive might be a little, you know, let that be the reason that you like these people. Stop basing it off of somebody's skin color or that they from your hood or that, you know, that you like them because they personality. You know, this is boxing. It's supposed to be about the skill sets of boxing. I could care less about your skin color, man. I could definitely care less about that. Uh, uh, Other than that, I think I'm gonna end it there for the day. It's been a long, long week, man. We had some real good, productive convos this week. Chris Humphreys, I appreciate you for being the sole person in the chat today. By what'd you say, real talk, or sports bars? You know, sports bars were around back then, and they offer you could watch fights at sports bars back then too. But the pay-per-view buys were way higher back then, and you know it was because you know what really ultimately killed it was you know what Mayweather was doing, and you know making fights that really nobody wants to see, and they're only watching it because they want to watch you lose. And when they never saw you lose, they eventually stopped buying your fights. So he brought that money model into boxing, and then you got you know the fact that the internet came along. You know the internet came along and it completely changed the game when it comes to entertainment and what you can instantly see and what you can see for free if you're very good at the internet. And then you had PBC come in and just death nail the whole thing. You know, because they're shooting themselves in the foot at this point, really. And I think this is why you're seeing them move a lot of these fights to pay per view, is because they can't keep giving away their best product for free and think that they're going to turn a profit off of that. It's not profitable, and that's why now you're seeing fights that should be on free TV. Now they're moving to pay per view, like Thurman Barrios really isn't a pay per view fight. It's something they would have gave away 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now they're forced to put that fight on pay per view because they have to start recouping some of this money that they've been losing all this time. And this is what Bob Arum, you know, one praise you can give to Bob Arum, the old grumpy old man, is that he did try to warn them about what they were doing. He did. He was the one person warning them, and everybody was saying at that time Bob Arum was a hater. But he told them like ultimately it's gonna kill the pay per view numbers if you guys go with this business model. And you can go check. Bob Arum was the only one saying it at the time. Everybody else was saying no, this is the way to do it. This is the future. And now look at the pay per view numbers. I mean, he knew he's a businessman, so he knew he knows the benefit of not giving your product away for free. Most of these guys on YouTube's a free platform, right? But go to these people's lives and see the amounts of money people just give away. I don't tell nobody to give me no money. Captain Full G blesses me so every once in a while. There's a few other people who have blessed me with super chats every once in a while, but I've never got on her and tried to say, y'all gotta pay me for my opinion. But ultimately, that's what this platform really is, and that's what it's really supposed to be used for, and that's what really will get YouTube sharing you out more if you become profitable. And they want some of that profit too. So at the end of the day, he tried to warn people. This is about your product, and your product, if it's worth money, you should be getting money from. This is why Top Rank was never really on free TV. They've been doing the ESPN thing, but you know what you got to have to watch ESPN? Well, you don't really have to have it now, but in a lot of ways you do. You can stream it. It's not good when you stream it for free because the quality is not good, but you can get it through the streaming apps, but you got to pay for them streaming apps, or you can get it through buying cable. You have to pay for cable to get in all the ESPN channels. To where Fox PBC, you could just turn on your TV without having a cable hooked up to it, without having an app, and get Fox PBC with just an antenna and watch those fights for free. So they were blowing a lot of money. I understand why they were doing it. They're building their brand, and sometimes giving away something gets you a bigger fan base than trying to force them to pay for it, which it ultimately worked. It's just the fan base that they built are not fans that are willing to pay for pay-per-views. They watched you because it was a free televised event. They weren't watching you because you were making them spend $1. So now when you try to translate that into pay-per-view buys, it's boom, they're shooting themselves in the foot. The pay-per-views are taken, and the only person that's really selling at this point, because he never really gave his product away for free, and everybody's been used to buying this product, is Canelo Alvarez. And this is the reason he can command all these huge dollar amounts. And the overseas fighters, they're really not suffering for paydays. Khan and Brook are going to make a huge payday for that fight, even though, there's not too many Americans interested. Everybody overseas still want to see that fight. So those guys' paychecks are not hurting because they weren't just giving away their product for free. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's going to hurt all the lower level PBC fighters. Like this Keith Thurman Barrios fight is not going to do well on pay-per-view. People might actually enjoy the fight. It might be a good fight, but it's not going to sell well on pay-per-view. And, anybody who says it is is lying to themselves. But that's their own fault for putting on all these free fights. You can't expect people to, like I said, I can't give you a haircut for free. And then when you come back to me in 7 days for another haircut, now I'm charging you for that same haircut. And I'm charging you double. I'm charging you double what the guy down the street is going to charge you. It just don't work like that. So, it's going to be a lot of growing pains for PBC. A lot of going. Now, if they was to acquire Terrence Crawford, then they could start putting on profitable pay-per-views, whether they place him with Spence or not. If they were to acquire Terrence Crawford, and this is why I say he shouldn't sign to PBC, is because I think if PBC gets Crawford, they're not going to immediately put that Spence Crawford fight on because they got a golden ticket at that point. They have all the belts, and they got the two most popular welterweights. Now we can match these two guys off with everybody in the welterweight division in-house and make a whole boatload of money. A whole boatload of money. So I think if it's in his best interest if he wants to actually make strap season not to sign with PBC. And I think Mayweather would be his other best choice, you know, because it's not directly being signed to PBC, and Mayweather has a lot of pull with a lot of people. So, or you could just stay independent, you know, and maybe do a venture, joint venture, or a partnership type of thing, but still control his own destiny. And I think that's what would be ultimately in his best interest if they get him, because one of them guys is going to lose, and one of them guys is going to lose their popularity. Now they can get a possibly a 2 or 3 fight, you know, deal out of it, you know. But what do they do at that point if Spence is not the guy? You know, if they acquire both of them, then they're going to get rid of one of them. Whoever's the loser after those 2 or 3 fights, you know, they don't really have a use for the loser at that point. So, you know, one of those guys is ultimately going to end up going away after that fight happens. So I think for them, they could seriously generate a lot of money if they had both of those guys in-house, undefeated as champions for a year or two, you know, and they would make a lot of money off it, a lot of money. But it would make no sense for them to immediately face them off together, because you would generate some quick money, but you wouldn't generate any long-term money. To where if you had both of those guys for at least a year or two before you put that fight on, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And then you have your coup de grace fight, which might get you $500 million at that point. So, to me, if he signs with PBC, don't look for that fight to happen immediately. Don't look for it to happen in 2022. If he signs the Mayweather Promotions, look for that fight to be Spence's next fight. And if he stays independent, it's not happening until 2023, maybe in the middle of 2023. Because I think Terrence Crawford, if he stays completely independent, is going after either a Josh Taylor fight or a bigger money fight. You know, maybe Jamal Charlo or one of the Charlos, or maybe Boots, or maybe, you know, he's going to go after a money fight before he goes after that Spence fight. So, you know, those are my thoughts for right now, man. I said I was going to get out for like 20 minutes ago. But, you know what I'm going to do? I had played some videos. Since it's the end of the week, my last live for the week, I'm going to just let y'all watch all the videos that I played, that I made this week regarding this situation and the other topics, and then I'm going to get out of here, man. So, by the time we hit the end of all those videos, we'll see if anybody else jumped in here, if anybody jumped in the chat. And if not, then I'll immediately end it and see y'all tomorrow, man. We'll have some brand new topics for y'all. Hopefully there'll be some new news regarding the strap season. I can't wait. Can't wait to see how this plays out. I'm amped up. You know, there's a few fights I'm amped up for right now. I'm definitely amped up for this Ugas fight. And I haven't seen Jamal Charlo fight. I haven't seen him fight in a long time, so I'm ready for him. I need to see a Charlo fight here. I'm amped up for that. And I haven't watched Josh Taylor fight live either, so I'm definitely gonna be watching that Josh Taylor fight probably live. I might do that one live if I can. All right, y'all. Y'all go ahead and check out these videos, and we'll probably be out of here after that.
Bob couldn't secure me the Spence fight when I was with him. So how you gonna secure me the Spence fight when I'm not with him?
Boy said he wasn't gonna he don't never be at my fights, but now he at my fights. Well, you see what I did, you know, compared to what he did. My thing is, who #1 in the welterweight division now? Well, you already know who I want. I've been calling them out all day, you know what I mean? Maybe I'll go up to 154. Maybe if Spence get his tail out his butt, he'll fight me. You know what I mean? Whatever, you know what I mean? I will whatever.
I'm a promoter that is willing to make any fight happen just for the sake of the sport and for the fans. On the other hand, PBC is a whole different story. Like, I don't control PBC. They have all the welterweights in the world, okay? And they still can't fight each other. So imagine PBC working with a different promoter. It's just difficult. I'm a promoter that is willing to make any fight happen just for the sake of the sport and for the fans. On the other hand, PBC is a whole different story. Like, I don't control PBC. They have all the welterweights in the world, okay? And they still can't fight each other. So imagine PBC working with a different promoter. It's just difficult.
If he say he's not worried about me, I don't know why he doing what he was doing here. I probably wouldn't go to none of his fights, so I'm not worried about Terrence Crawford. We're going to move on in the summertime and see who I fight, so we'll see. I got to talk to my manager, Heyman, and we'll go from there. If he say he's not worried about me, I don't know why he doing what he was doing here. I probably wouldn't go to none of his fights, so I'm not worried about Terrence Crawford. We're going to move on in the summertime and see who I fight, so we'll see. I got to talk to my manager, Heyman, and we'll go from there.
Niggas outside, they slangin' that ride. Chicks on the side, they slangin' that. Nigga like me, they making see. Chick making money. I said I like her body. The way she move, she looks so sexy. The little thing she do. Now watch her work the table. Now watch her work the table. Now watch her work the table. Now watch her work the table.
Take it over. Look, rap game, flow game, dope game, cocaine, smoke jank. I can get it to you, it ain't no thing. Riding down the back road, raw steam pack low. I can play them in it turf.
You say you the big fish, I'm looking for you. Fucking goofy ass shirt. Where your ass at? Oh, whole ass. Well, you got a lot of room to hide in this motherfucker.
Mr. Spence.
Hey, what's going on? Nah, he not promoting well because throughout the whole promotion of the fight, but he's not saying Lomachenko name every time they say Terrence Crawford. Even after the fight, they kept saying Lomachenko, comparing Terrence Crawford to Lomachenko, Terrence Crawford to Lomachenko, even after the fight. Like, why are you even mentioning his name when you got Terrence Crawford fighting on pay-per-view? We worry about Crawford when we get there, but like I said, Crawford need me more than I need him.
Bob couldn't secure me the Spence fight when I was with him. So how you gonna secure me the Spence fight when I'm not with him?
Nowadays, everybody in their daddy got the five spit, keys spit, what you fight fives with, wet with it.
What's going on, man? How you doing? You know, I want a champion, but realistically, hopefully, I get somebody under that or somebody with a big name, a number one spot, anything. Yeah, this year, it's my time, and I will be taking over this welterweight division. We'll gladly take that for the number one spot or for whatever.
Terrence Crawford don't got a fight right now.
When you're young and hungry like this, it's hard to be somebody that's young, hungry, talented. It's hard to be somebody that had fun doing what they're doing. I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this because it's all I know. When they know you fighting a guy like that, they're a shot away from me. At the end of the day, it's boxing, and things happen. You always don't get your way. You just gotta be patient. Like with me, I gotta be patient and wait my turn. But once I get my turn, that's it. It's over. I'm gonna be at the top forever.
At the same time,
Niggas outside, they slangin' that ride. Chicks on the side, they slangin' that. Nigga like me, they making see. Chick making money. I said I like her body. The way she move, she looks so sexy. The little thing she do. Now watch her work the table. Now watch her work the table. Now watch her work the table. Now watch her work the table.
He has most of the belt, so I have no problem with him being a favorite. Today we got to go in there and settle it. Numbers don't matter when it comes to that.
Look, I'll give him his props. At times he looked very sharp, boxed brilliant. That's his game. He boxes nicely. So
Full respect there, and you can see the mutual respect because he wants it, I want it.
All right, y'all, man. Salute to all the fighters we spoke about this week, man. I appreciate everybody who tuned in this week, man. Everybody who called in, dropped their thoughts, Rodolfo Lopez, Rodolfo, Captain Full G, Ben Israel, everybody else who tried to call in, man, but you couldn't get through, man. I appreciate you, man. Definitely hit me up tomorrow. Can't wait to get back on here tomorrow, man. I appreciate all the love we've been getting, man. Sorry I left y'all, man, but I'm trying to get it back rolling. Hopefully we can stay on track. If you haven't hit that like button, definitely hit the like button. Share, subscribe, and watch the replays, man. Definitely watch the replays. If you have any topics you want me to cover, holler at me, man. Hit the community section up. I'll be dropping community posts all the time, so definitely holler at me in the community posts. It's your boy, and we are out of here.
All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. I just wanna touch an onion. She just want a couple hundred. I got mad and changed the subject. Then I got drunk and said fuck it. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling bitches. Pull up with that Aquafina. Yellow bone, her name is Tina. Tina like the hit casinos. Tina could snort a whole kilo. Tina like to fight and argue. Bye bye Tina, bitch, who are you? Met a dark skin chick named Anna. Anna like that marijuana. Anna was from the Bahamas. At least that's what she said. I assume she's honest. I apologize, Your Honor. I just wanted me some money. You can't tell these niggas frontin'. You can't tell these niggas nothing. 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 All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling bitches. This is for my hustling bitches. Nigga, don't act so suspicious. Hustle hot as hell, but you swear they snitching. You don't wanna go to prison. You don't wanna go to prison. You don't wanna come up missing. You don't wanna come up missing. I just want a couple bitches. Put them in the ring, make a split decision. I'm trying to slow down with the sinning. I pray to God, no, he'll forgive me. Me and God had a discussion. He said, tell him. I said, you can't tell these niggas nothing. You can't tell these niggas